Hey guys, with 12-hour challenge coming around the corner soon, I figured I'd make a quick, well, I suppose it probably won't be quick, but a tutorial on the XTM category in Rabi-Ribi. So, just some background. XTM, X is just a variable. It stands for X towns members. You can think of it as the any percent category of the game, much like 0 star in SM64, for example. So the thing to note is that for XTM, it uses some glitches only found in the older versions of the game. So essentially, this is a legacy category. The current any percent category of the game is 10 town members, which is on the latest release of the game, and 10 town members is the minimum number of town members you need to recruit. And in this category, you only need to recruit 2 towns members. But X being a variable, so if any time a new glitch is found that perhaps reduces the number of town members required, that would be the new any percent. Okay, so because you need to use an older version of the game, you would think that you would need to find some sort of obscure download or get somebody in the community to drop it to you, but the developer of the game actually put all of the older versions of Rabi-Ribi in the beta section. So if you go to your Steam library and you right click and go to the properties of the game, you can click the beta tab here and you can select a beta you would like to opt in. So these are all kind of like the older versions of the game. So we're going to go with the oldest version, which is 1.65, and then once you select it and close it out, it should download the older version of the game. So but before you download the older version of the game, I think it's important to note that when you downgrade to an older version of the game, you actually lose a lot of your data on the present version of the game. So if you go to where your Rabi-Ribi data files are located, which for the standard installation, it would be in C, Program Files, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Rabi-Ribi, and then in the Save folder, and then you're going to the Miscellaneous, and there's going to be a file called sys.dat, system.data, and what I've done here is I've just renamed it to sys2.dat. You can back it up in any way you want, but just have a backup so that when you upgrade back to the recent version of Ravi-Ribi, not all your data will be lost. So that's a good way to just keep it, just in case. Alright, so once you have backed up your sys.dat, you can go ahead and change to 1.65 here, and then start the game. Okay, so we're going to hop over to the game view, and we start the game up. So for this tutorial, I'm going to have the input display here so you can have a better idea of the things I'm doing. Hopefully it's helpful. So a few things. The older versions of Rabi-Ribi don't load very well, so they take longer to load than the recent versions of Rabi-Ribi. And furthermore, a lot of the time, you'll get a lot of lag unless you've played through all the sections of the game. So if you did a practice run of XTM before you did an actual run, you would eliminate most of the lag because you've loaded it now into the RAM or so, something like along those lines. So in XTM, it uses some glitches that are exclusive to the story mode. So we're gonna start the run on story mode. Obviously, for this category, you can choose a numerous amount of difficulties, but I'm going to be teaching this category on casual, so a lot of the strats and routing is exclusively for this difficulty. If you are attempting to run this on a higher difficulty, then you'll have to figure out kind of your own routing. So, just start a new game on casual. Timer starts as soon as you hit the difficulty here. And we'll go right into it. So if you press the start button, it actually skips all the story cutscenes. So for this section, when you're in the hospital, you can actually hold start the whole time. Normally when you hit start, it will open up the pause menu, but specifically for this area, the pause menu is not openable. And that actually is a bit annoying for if you flub up like a movement here and you want to reset. You can't actually exit the game until you get out of pre-prologue. And this section typically takes 45 seconds. 40, like low 43, high 42. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. There's nothing to it. You can't even quick drop in pre-prologue, as you can see. You can only just move and jump. So you're gonna jump up these boxes. Quick thing to note, if you are barely high enough to reach a platform, Erina kind of just automatically like zips up onto the platform. As you can see, like I'm not jumping high enough, but she kind of just like pops up onto the platform. Whereas if you jump too high, like you'll just overshoot it and fall back down. So optimal movement would actually be to minimize your jump so that you just kind of pop right on. But that can be annoying because if you don't jump high enough, you'll fall back down, and that loses a lot of time. So typically, if you overshoot a jump, you lose some time, but it's not that bad. But if you undershoot it, then you're losing a ton of time. And you can kind of tell when she pops up because you can kind of see a little flicker. I don't know how noticeable it is, but that's like one of the first few movement things in the game. And that applies to all ledges you can jump up that you come from beneath like this. So like obviously for something like this where you don't come from beneath, there's not really a way to pop up on top of it. But anytime you're coming through a semi-solid kind of platform, you can pop up on top of it. So here, a higher jump can actually jump to this part of the box. So you don't need to do 2 jumps like this, just 1 jump. It's a little bit faster. And then jump up here. Because you can't make this full jump from down here. You have to jump up at least either this first box or this box. So from here, you can just go straight to this box and then jump up here. From here, if you do a little jump down, you can actually... it's kind of like platformer games or 2D side-scrollers where when you jump from an area, as opposed to just walking off, as you can see, like I can just walk off this box, right? But if I jump from here, like back here, I can start falling like before I even reach the ledge. Whereas if I walk off, I don't fall until like a little bit after. I don't know if that really makes sense if you're not familiar with the concepts, but basically, if I jump earlier, I can start my downward velocity sooner. So, kind of from here, jump up here, and then like do a short hop. I don't think it really makes a big difference because you're also nudging the wall, and also there's a cutscene here, so... Like I said before, you can just hold start during this entire section, and now you're just walking. There's nothing to it. Just walking. You can jump if you want. Jumping and walking is the same. As you can see, I'm just holding down the start button to skip all the cutscenes. So from here, same kind of deal. You can jump up through this semi-solid kind of platform here to like pop up. This one's a little bit easier to visualize because you can kind of see where exactly you're going. So here, you can jump up to this platform, and there's actually a nice visual cue. You can see this white line that I'm kind of standing on. As soon as you pass this white line, you can jump straight up, and it will like full height jump, and you'll pop right onto it. So for this, you pass it and then jump straight up left, is kind of the idea. And because you have to go left. There's nothing over here on the right, it's just more empty rooms. So, jumping over here, and then same deal as the first floor, where you kind of just jump through this semi-solid. And then here, I like to do a full jump here to make it up this ledge, but I don't think it really matters. You can just walk straight up. And then more walking. And just keep holding the start button the whole time. No need to let go of it. So, I mean, I talked a lot about random stuff, but it'll come back later on. And then you can continue to hold the start button through this chapter transition. Prologue, Bunny Meets Fairy. And then as soon as you see the cutscene right here, you can stop holding start, because that's the final cutscene. If you keep holding start, you'll actually open the pause menu, and that's slow, so you don't want to do it. Okay, so fastest form of movement is just quick dropping, which is just down plus jump in the air. Max height quick drops are faster than lower height quick drops. So typically I start out with the small one just to pick up speed, and then start going into full height ones like this, and then you're just gonna go right. You don't want to like accidentally jump up on these platforms. So you can fit I can't really show it off because I accidentally triggered this or procced this enemy to come closer, but you can do a mini short hop, quick drop, like right in front of this bunny like this, and then jump up. So, although max height quick drops are faster, if you get to an area like this, you can also do short ones. Like any area where there's like a ceiling or something, or like not enough ledge to do a full height quick drop, you kind of do a smaller one in order to keep your speed. Like for example, right here, I'm doing a small one. Like these are smaller than max height. And then here, we're just gonna jump down, and go down over here. So here's the first reverse wall jump. It's pretty straightforward. Just do a reverse wall jump to get up here. This is the sort of structure. So you just like kick off this wall. You're gonna keep holding right after this. If you keep holding right, you'll actually just bump into this bunny. So after you hold right, you wanna stop yourself short. It is possible to clear this sort of gap here and also not hit the bunny, but it's pretty precise and not really something you can kind of account for, especially since this jump is pretty blind. So I just stopped myself short. And so from here, after you jump over this bunny, you want to quick drop down here, and then you can quick drop and just hold left and then keep mashing down left, and then quick drop, keep mashing, and then you'll land down here, and then you'll go into this room. I like to quick drop to the right to hug this wall. If you just quick drop normally, let me show you, like this, you'll actually land on this upper platform, and you don't want to do that. Like, it's pretty annoying, but it is possible to just quick drop past it. But I like to just turn right a little bit, just so I don't clip it. And then from here, you quick drop down here. And what I like to do here is you quick drop here and then quick drop past the ledge. You can quick drop past the ledge, I kind of clipped it, and then quick drop down here. So you're going to intentionally deboost through this because these bullets are really hard to get around. It's possible to get through with good movement, but I don't know, deboosting is actually pretty fast. And if you get hit by the bullet, you actually have a much longer stun time than if you just rammed into her. So you need to do a... well, I have to wait here. But you need to do a reverse wall jump here in order to outspeed this blue enemy, and then intentionally deboost off this spark, which only does 2 damage, to get through the green enemy. So in this room, you can do... so this is where the first kind of launch is. And a launch is basically performing a wall jump input after you quick drop towards a wall. So I'm going to quick drop and then perform a wall jump input, or at least attempt to. Let me get back up here. And you'll get a launch like that. And it should land you over here somewhere, which would avoid a lot of these enemies, so you don't want to take too much damage. So if you quick drop low enough, you can actually not even hit the ceiling, like nudge into this wall structure right here on the right. Like so. And if you keep holding right, you'll land in this pit, but if you kind of slow down, maybe tap left a few times, you can land on this left platform. Let me show it to you. Like so. And then you can jump over this pit. If you don't input the wall jump early enough, then you'll just land right here, which is kind of annoying because you'll usually hit a bunch of enemies and it's pretty slow. Whereas on the flip side, if you go too early, it's still okay. You just nudge into this wall and then you'll land here if you keep holding right. So, rule of thumb, you want to go as late as possible, but if you're not confident, you can just go early and you'll lose a lot less time. And then just keep going along here. There's nothing too special here. So these enemies are actually RNG. I probably can't show it to you that well, but these spark balls can go in any direction. It's possible to get through them without taking any damage with some good movement and good RNG. However, you kind of just have to react to it. So like some of these, let me see if I can show you how to react to it. So this, I just do a full jump to jump through it without quick dropping. Because if you were to quick drop through that, then you would probably just take damage like so. I don't know. It's kind of RNG. You kind of just have to get a feel for it to be able to sort of react to it. All in all, though, it's up to chance, really, whether or not you can take damage here or not. So here's another optional launch. This is only 2 tiles high, so it's a little bit harder to do it. As I mentioned before, the input is just quick drop towards the wall, and then do a wall jump input, and then hold the opposite direction. So you can kind of see on my input display how I'm doing it. Quick drop towards the wall, and then wall jump away from it. It's a lot easier to do than it seems, and you can kind of just... Here is a good place to practice it, just because there is a ledge on this side and on this side. This is also a 2-tile one, which is pretty short, which is good for practicing the timing of the short ones, which are generally much tighter. And also there's a save point, so even though there's a spark enemy here to bother you, you have infinite health to sort of just fool around here and practice your launching. So I recommend this as a pretty decent place to practice a little bit of launching. And then from here, there is a wall here. You can do a launch here, but you don't want to, because it goes right into a spark enemy. It doesn't matter what RNG the spark enemy gives you, you'll always kind of ram into it. Well, I guess not, but here you don't cross this ledge. So it actually is slower because you can't clear this gap, and it slows you down. Slower than just going through this room normally. Most launches only save frames, so if you're not comfortable with them yet, I don't recommend doing them because you'll lose more time attempting them than just going through the room normally, like so. Okay, so this is the first boss. Hit start. Again, this skip cutscenes. Without any hammer, she kind of just dies on her own. And here, you can keep holding start the whole duration. You don't have to worry about over holding start. There are 2 cutscenes here, so you have to keep holding it through 2 cutscenes. It's not just one cutscene. And whenever there's a sort of tutorial menu like this, you can keep holding start. And you can see I can't open the pause menu when this shows up. So it's a good way to keep holding start without over holding it, but without under holding it either, and forgetting to skip a cutscene. So you have to go over here, trigger this cutscene, and then come back around. There's a method to how I deal with these enemies in the following room. But basically, there are 5 enemies you would like to shoot with a charge shot. However, normally you only have enough ammo for 4 shots of charge shot. So you can time it in a way that allows you to recover enough MP for 5th shot. But how MP works is when your MP is not fully depleted, it replenishes faster than if it is fully depleted. So let me show it to you. Yeah, it takes longer when your MP is depleted because there's sort of like a pause, as you can see. But if you wait long enough, then you can start charging right away. But basically when there's no MP, you get this sort of like error that you don't have enough MP to even start a charge shot, which slows you down a little bit in terms of charging fast enough. So gonna go through here, shoot this first one, and then you can kind of mash pellets to kill the second enemy. These spark balls are RNG, but you can shoot this one. When you enter this room, walk a little bit and then fire, because this enemy always comes towards you, and you can always hit it because the charge shot is just pretty big in terms of like how much it covers. So even if it goes up like so, you can kind of hit it like after you walk in. Well, I can't show it to you because I haven't charged it fully, but like, as you can see, it kind of went up, but I still had enough time to hit it. So, oops. Let me show it to you. And here you also... So basically these 2 rooms, back to back, you kind of just walk in and fire the charge shot immediately. And then this last enemy is the one where sometimes you'll have a charge shot, sometimes you won't, depending on how well you've sort of managed your charge shots. Let me show it to you. So I have enough for a charge shot here, and I can just fire it. If you don't have enough for a charge shot, let me show it to you without, like, let's say I didn't have a charge shot, you can kind of just jump over him, so no big deal. The charge shot is mainly just to level up Ruben. It's not very important that you need to kill the enemies for money or EXP or anything. So, warp back here. There's a launch here you can do. This saves almost no time, and it's pretty difficult to do. It doesn't always save time either, depending on how you get the launch. So here, fire a charge shot immediately as you enter this room, and then start another charge, so you have enough time to charge shot this one. You can jump over these enemies, they're no big deal. You can shoot at them if you want as well. I typically like to shoot it. So here, there's an enemy in that sort of pit. You see the little slime button? You can kind of jump and fire as you're like just above the ledge, like so. So let me show it to you without slowing down. So I typically like to do this. It's easier to shoot this enemy. So like as you're rising up, you want to shoot it just as it's able to clear this floor. Like you want to shoot the charge shot along the ground, because if you shoot it up here, it's too high and it won't hit the enemy. That being said, as you saw, I aimed too low and it just kind of hit the ground. So let me show it to you, hopefully without hitting the ground. Like that, and it will kill the enemy. So what happens if you don't hit the enemy because you aimed too high or too low because you mistimed the charge shot? So there's a pretty easy way to deal with that enemy, fortunately. A lot of times people forget, but you can actually aim Ribbon downwards. So you just aim her downwards and shoot. It dies in one hit, so it's pretty easy. And then you can jump up here. Again, minimum height that allows you to pop up on these ledges. And then you want to jump up this ledge, then this ledge. You actually can't reach this block normally from the ground, unfortunately, so you have to do a little hop up here. If you like try to jump, but like jump too low somehow and like don't make it up this ledge, or like just like miss input because you're trying to go fast and you don't get a jump. I kind of killed the enemy, but there's a bumblebee enemy or fairy, a bee fairy here, and it can actually bother you if you don't go fast enough. So try to save the frames by popping up onto the semi-solid ledges, but don't fuck up because you lose a lot more time fucking up there. Let me show it to you. Like, let's say you don't jump up here in time. Well, I got good RNG this time, but generally, like, she'll like be over here and then bump into you and cause all kind of problems for you. But if you go fast enough, she'll never bother you. So it's a little bit of RNG that can bother you if you're slow. So just aim down if you mess up the charge shot. And then you can do a launch here, and it kind of puts you right on top of the Pico Hammer. So you need to gain some levels, so these two enemies are fortunately in your way. Here's another launch. And then here's the first mini-boss event. I like to just walk up to this ledge here and do a 3-hit combo. It kills them pretty quickly. I guess I should talk a little bit about combat. At this stage of the game, you can only do a 3-hit combo. It's the maximum number of combos you can do. If you actually turn around for the second and third hit, the backswing of the hammer actually deals... It doesn't actually deal double damage. A lot of people like to say it deals double damage, but it deals almost double damage. So I don't know exactly how much it is, but it's close to double damage. So a lot of the times when you're encountering bosses or enemies, you want to turn around for your third hit, second and third hits. So it's a good thing to note. You'll see it here on this mini boss event. So when you're coming through Beach, don't pick up that mana up. Anytime you pick up an item that you don't need, it adds weight. So bosses in this game are actually scaled to how much items you have. So don't pick up items needlessly because it'll just increase bosses' HP. And then here, make sure you tag this warp by walking over it. You'll see it says warp. That means you have the warp. You don't need to open the menu at all. You'll automatically have it if you pass by the warp. And it says down warp. If you accidentally jump over it, then you won't have it. Like this. But if you land and see A good way to see is that there's an autosave trigger when you hit a warp like that. That means you've hit it. So if you come over here and you don't, as you can see, like I'm jumping over it and there's no autosave. But if I jump on it, then there'll be an autosave trigger, as you can see. So that's a good way to know that you got the warp. Like if you see the autosave happening, you got the warp. And that's all you really need. And if you jump over it and there's no autosave, that means you didn't get the warp. So make sure you tag that warp, you'll need it for later. And then coming up here is the first sort of demonstration of back swing dealing more damage. So there are 2 enemies here. What I'm going to do is jump and fire 3 ribbon pellets at the pink one, the one in front. And then I'm going to jump in between the pink and the blue one. And then from there, I'm going to do a normal 3-hit combo on the blue one. But since the pink bunny is behind me, she'll take the backswing of my hammer, and you'll see how much extra damage it does. So if you pay attention to the big pink bunny and the blue bunny's damage numbers that appear, you'll see that the pink one takes like twice as much damage, or nearly. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. And then after you do the 3-hit combo, you're gonna release the charge shot on the blue bunny in front of you. So you're gonna do jump 3 pellets and then hold charge shot, and then fire the charge shot at the blue bunny, and then usually the pink bunny won't die right away, so fire some pellets at her to finish her off. Like that. And that's the typical fight. And again, a lot of these times there are cutscenes, so like even every single cutscene you can kind of, like this is a cutscene that you just need to hit start. You just need to kind of memorize where all the cutscene triggers are, so you can just hold start as soon as they happen. And then hold start. So from here, you can just let this cat dog enemy jump over you. Like, by just normal movement, it'll just jump over you if you don't jump into it. So you'll see me just duck underneath this and then climb up here, climb up the pyramid. You can quick drop between each step to speed it up a little bit. If you do a full jump, it actually jumps over this Diglett enemy. So no need to worry about killing it or anything like that. And then from here, be careful on this block right here. There's actually an item in here. And if you quick drop kind of on the block, you can sometimes pick it up through the block. This is a trick called block clipping. I guess it's not really a trick since you're just quick dropping into it, but it's useful for picking up items without using bombs. And this is one example where it can actually screw you over, because as I mentioned before, you don't want to accidentally pick up items to needlessly add weight. So I'm going to make my way back up here. Sometimes I kill that Diglett, sometimes I don't. So just be mindful, and then you're going to jump straight down. When you jump straight down here, don't accidentally hold left too much, because you'll land up here and you want to go all the way down. You can start holding left after you clear this gap. And there's going to be... You want to go left into this next room. There is an enemy right here, like a little tooth enemy in your way. You can actually buffer a jump as soon as you land. Like, I'm going to start... You can see how early I buffer jump, but like as soon as I'm like near the ground, I buffer a jump, and you just keep holding it until you jump. I'm not sure how early you can buffer a jump. Oh, okay. So you can buffer it, I guess, as soon as you start falling. You can just buffer a jump, and you'll jump over the enemy. So you can just keep holding left after you clear the gap here, and you'll buffer a jump over this enemy, which is really helpful to clear the enemy without getting hit by it. And then, so, some hammer terminology. The normal hammer combo is just, we call it a standing combo, 3-hit combo. A double rev is when you reverse both the second and third hit, like so. And a rev 3 is when you only reverse the third hit. And then, apart from those standard combos, you can also walk and use a hammer without... So normally if you walk and then if you use the hammer, you can't move, right? Like, you just kind of locks in place. But if you're walking and use the hammer, you can use it while also walking. We call this walking hammer, as the name may suggest. It's using the hammer while walking. It's pretty similar to the Zelda games, the 3D Zeldas, where you have a sort of running slash move, which is a little bit different than standing slash moves, if you're familiar with that concept at all. And so the reason why I'm explaining it is because you want to just do a walking hammer here, and it actually it hits both of these enemies. When an enemy gets hit, it turns yellow. That means it has sort of like iframes, and while an enemy is in iframes, you can walk through it without taking damage. So let me go back here. And then show you it without stopping, really. Walking hammer. Okay, so here's the first major trick of the run. So this trick is exclusive to 1.65, which is one of the reasons why you needed to downgrade to this version. So normally when you enter the pyramid, there are these sort of triggers where Ribbon tells you that this is not the way to go to clear prologue, and there's not really anything you can do about it normally. But if you manage to enter this cutscene backwards, you can kind of see, like, after I talk to Ribbon here, Erinoah slowly walks backwards, like, as you can see. She walks a few tiles backwards. So if I somehow manage to enter this cutscene with the reverse orientation like so, that was actually really lucky, I'm kind of surprised. You kind of walk backwards and see I've crossed this trigger, which I'm normally not supposed to cross. So, normally just walking to the trigger and turning around is a subpixel dependent and also frame perfect trick, but there is an easier way where you stand right here and take the damage from the bullets and kind of just get knocked back into the trigger. And if you skip the cutscene, you kind of end up on this side. I'm gonna grab a save point so I can demonstrate this a little bit easier for you. So there's actually a not here. Flare blow. It's actually a save point over here. I'm gonna save just to a random file. Let's save file 30. Okay. So again, pretty straightforward, but let me show it to you. So the place you want to stand, so the trigger is right here. So you see these two pillars and how there's, well, they're kind of tiles. So you can see the tile that I'm currently standing on. And then I'm standing in between these two tiles, right? And then as soon as I try to walk forward a little bit, that's where the trigger is. So the goal is to stand on the left side of this tile and then face right. So this would be the perfect position to stand on. You can see I'm standing on the left side of this tile that I'm currently standing on. Basically on this line, but not, you don't want to be in the middle of this line because it's a little bit too close. So just standing like near the left side here, facing right, and just stand there and wait for the enemy to hit you. Like she'll attack as soon as you enter this room, and just stand kind of right there, and you'll get knocked back. If you stand too far right, you won't get knocked backwards, you'll get knocked forward. I don't really know all the peculiarities about how deboosting works, just that if you stand on the left side as far as left as possible while still getting hit, you should be knocked to the left. And then just press start to skip the cutscene, and now you're in. You're in the pyramid. So there's a ribbon block right here. You can see it's kind of a different color. So you can shoot down. And you're going to quick drop into the next room over here. So this room is actually pretty dangerous, so you want to be careful. But you want to jump over to this side over here. Another good way you can do this is a safe way that I like to do it is do a launch over to this side. So if you accidentally trigger this enemy, then it's bad news. I guess this trap, I suppose. Like so. It makes it really easy. The reason why I don't like just hopping is because you can't just do a full hop here. If you try to jump here, you'll hit the ceiling and then not make it to the next ledge, and then you're down here. And without Ravi slippers, you have to do a wall jump every time you want to jump up, and it's very difficult to do quickly. So I recommend doing the launch if you are comfortable with doing launches. Otherwise, just be very careful. Just do a short hop to get over to the next ledge. If you quick drop down to this middle platform, it can also be a bit dangerous because you gain a lot of momentum when you quick drop. So just be wary of that as well. The fastest way would just be to jump right on over with the short hop. But it is dangerous to do quickly, so something like this. Like so would be the fastest way to navigate that room. But it can be tricky, so I tend to take the safer route of just doing a launch here, which is definitely slower, but it makes it really easy to not have to deal with any accidental bonking of ceilings or walls. So as soon as you enter this next room, you can fire a charge shot, and then a pellet. A few pellets to kill this enemy. It's a bit harder to do it if you don't just mash right away, because the enemy sometimes goes lower to the ground. It takes 2 pellets after your charge shot to kill it. So getting through this room, you have to do a wall jump to get up here into this safe area, and then this is another safe area, and the objective is to get up here by this block. And then I'll explain the next part of the trick after that. So you can actually go fast enough. Oh, whoops! You actually go fast enough that you can beat this laser before you have to wait for it to come back around. As you can see, like, I have to wait for it to come back. If you're too slow, you have to wait for it to come back. Like, let me show you. And now I have to wait, and then I can go. But if you're fast enough, you can actually outspeed it. Let me show it to you. As you can see. Obviously, it's pretty risky, but you kind of just have to chase it. Like, as soon as it hits the wall, kind of outspeed it like so. The movement is pretty tight, but with a little bit of practice, it becomes pretty easy. You can see how kind of close it is every single time. You can also go too fast, like for example, well, I can't show it to you right now, but because I bonked, so no. It's pretty hard to go too fast, but you can do it and accidentally trigger it while it's on this side. So don't go too fast, otherwise you'll trigger this, and this whole kind of cutscene happens and it takes a while. If that happens, you can also just reload because there's an autosave conveniently right by this door for some reason. Which is pretty nice. So for this next part, I'm going to clear these enemies. So this is the first zip, and first zip of the run. So normally, after clearing this room, you have to go through this room, and then after you clear this room, you have to go through this really long room, which contains a bunch of enemies and spikes. And it takes a long time because this enemy's RNG, like enemies are RNG, and you have to wait for them to blow up the ground. And you can also accidentally pick up this man up, which is also bad news. And then finally, you'll get to this room over here, and then jump off this trampoline, and then the boss is over there. So you don't want to do that. There's a faster way to get through this room. And that's to come up here, And then, as soon as the laser is about to go off, you want to jump into the ceiling. So it's pretty weird to explain, but let me see if I can nail it for you. Also, you need to kill this enemy, otherwise you'll get hit by these balls. Oops. So, the yellow laser comes. It comes. It's coming. You trigger it. The laser is gonna shoot at you. It always shoots the laser first. And you just want to jump at the right time. You basically want to take damage as you're jumping into the ceiling. Like, you want to be at max height when the laser hits you. So it's pretty lenient on the timing, so it shouldn't be too hard to just get a feel for the timing, because there's also sound. So you can kind of time it based on after you hear the sound. So if you jump too early, you'll just get hit and then get stuck up here. But if you jump high enough, you'll go through. Oops. It's pretty nice to practice this too, just because you spawn right here. And if you jump too late, then you'll also fall. You'll also just miss the timing completely. So, I mean, it's hard to explain all the finer details, but just basically jump at the right time is the TLDR. I tend to hold right while jumping up there. I think you can just jump. Okay, so I guess you can't just jump. You have to hold right, which makes sense. You want to get deboosted forward is the idea. Basically how it works is deboosting is gonna place me kind of, so I'm standing here, but when I get hit, it kind of pushes me on top of the 1x1 block that I'm standing in front of. And then after my iframes wear out, or kind of, I guess, come back online, the game sees that I'm in the ceiling, and that's when it zips me to the right. So much like a lot of other games that have zips, when you're in a place out of bounds that you're not supposed to be, it's gonna keep pushing you in one direction until you get popped out. So you can see, in this game, you only get zipped to the right, generally speaking. So in this case, I'm gonna zip to the right, and I'm gonna be in this room. Also, there's a badge inside of that 1x1 block, which is why the armored screen is here. You can still move around, and that's the next part of the trick. So normally you would just pick up the item, which you can see in a badge, but as I mentioned before, you don't want to needlessly pick up items. So what you want to do is get the zip. Don't jump too early like I did. Jump up on this trampoline, and then there's an autosave right here before the boss, which once you hit the autosave, it saves your current state, which means you can walk to the autosave before the badge, like you got the badge screen, disappears. The badge only enters your inventory after that screen disappears. So for a little bit of clarity, I suppose I can show it to you. If I stop being an idiot. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to wait. Also, you can tap left a little bit to land on this trampoline, because the zip normally puts you like over here on the right. But if you press, like, I usually tap left like, I guess like 2 or 3 times to kind of just maneuver myself back to the trampoline. Like so, and then jump over here. So once you hit the autosave, like here, while the armored screen is still there, you can cancel the armored screen. And then, quick reload. So a quick reload is when you open the start menu. As you can see, I have the badge. And then you hit boost plus item menu. And then I'll reset. So I reset on this autosave, and because it autosaved before the badge screen disappeared, as you can see, the badge is no longer with me. And that's how you skip getting the badge. because you don't want to get the badge if you don't have to. And that badge doesn't add a lot of weight, but every little bit counts, especially for a category as short as this one. So that covers the pyramid pretty much. So next we're gonna fight Pandora. So her fight is pretty straightforward. This is just my demonstration of the fight without slowing down or explaining anything. That was probably a bad demonstration, but let me kind of break things down. So you're gonna start with 3 pellets. Pretty much for a lot of boss fights, you want to just start with the pellet opening into a charge shot, and then keep holding your charge. And then I'm gonna go into a double rev. So as I mentioned before, it's when you turn around for the second and third hit of your hammer combo. So let me show it to you forward, just a forward combo. 20, 24, 32. So let me show it to you with the double reverse hit. 42, 56 for the second and third hit of that combo. So as you can see, it does way more damage. You can pretty much mash it as well, because you don't have any other hammer combos. So as soon as you hit the first hammer combo, just mash right and hammer. And then you're going to fire a charge shot and then walk right through her, is what I tend to do. So pellets. Pellets, do your double rev, fire the charge shot that you were charging, fire more pellets, and then walk through her. And you're going to wall jump to hit her with a charge shot. And then you can just do hops and then aim upwards to hit her while she's in the air like this. The goal is to hit 310 damage. But not any more than that. So you don't want to hit over 310 at all. Or, well, not over, like this is still okay. Like you don't want to overdo it though. Because otherwise she won't, you want to manipulate this attack with the 2 giant pink balls. Let me show you what happens if you do too much damage. Like this is way too much damage. Okay, I guess it's not too much damage, but if you deal too much damage, you'll see what I mean. Let me see if I can actually do the fight properly. So it's pretty hard to get a lot of damage in order to fuck it over, I suppose, but it is still technically possible. This is probably too much? No? Okay. So I guess you're pretty safe on damage. You're only aiming for 310 damage though, so it's not too bad. Usually it'll be 312 or 314, so this is about what I want. And after that, what you want to do is let her walk a little bit towards you after she lands, and then fire charge shot and pellets. So, and then you're going to stand at this door. When you stand really close to her, these things won't hit you. So that's also a thing to know. So 314 is good. And you're going to stand right on this door. So then typically what I like to do is a double reverse or a rev 3, if you remember the terminology, which is just reversing my third hit. So 312 is good. and then fire a charge shot and some pellets, and then do a regular 3-hit combo, and then fire her with a pellet. And while you're firing her with that last pellet, you want to hold down. So you can actually hold down during the 3-hit combo as well. So for the very last combo, you just want to hold down the entire time. And you can't do a reverse hit on the last combo. It doesn't work. Like, you won't be able to go through the door if you do that. So I'm gonna hold down, and you can see she talks to you, but you're actually already transitioned through this door. And then after you skip the cutscene, you can see that I'm in this room instead. So just like the door. So let me show it to you without going through the door. Well, let's not mess up like that. So you can see I didn't jump through the door, like I didn't transition through the door, and so this cutscene takes place normally, and then I have to enter through the door. And this cutscene is like a second or like 2 seconds or so, so it's a nice little time save. That's not too hard to do. Obviously, you need to be able to manipulate her on top of the door correctly. Like, let me show you what happens when you don't do it correctly. Like, well, it's kind of hard to show off when it's pretty easy to pull off. It can happen though. This is probably a good example. Yeah, let me show it to you. So you can see this will probably still work. Yeah, because I'm still pretty close to the door, but if she walks too close to you or she's too far away, then you won't be able to transition through the door. Let me stand over here to show you. Uh-oh. Yeah, you don't want to attack her too early, otherwise she'll go into her cut-in, which is no good. Wait for her to use her ball attack. As you can see, I'm not standing on the door, so there's no way for me to transition through the door. But if you're standing close enough to her, you can just hold down, do the 3-hit combo, and if she's still alive, you can fire ribbon pellets. Even if they go down, you're close enough that they'll still hit her. So that's the goal. Let me show it to you with ribbon pellets. This is probably not enough damage, for example. Okay, that was still enough damage, but basically, if you don't do enough damage, your 3-hit combo is not going to work. And you have to fire some pellets at her. Ow. So this is a good example of like the door is not gonna work because I'm too far away from it. Typically happens if you don't fire any pellets at her while she's on the ground. Because it's nice to fire a charge shot to knock her back, but you also need to keep some pellets on her to stun her. As you can see there, I had to fire a pellet at her. But as long as you're holding down, you'll still be able to transition through. And then you'll skip the cutscene and you'll be on this side, and you want to go left into this room. So let me demonstrate it again without slowing down. So 314 is a pretty nice number for this. It's okay if you get hit, by the way. Oh, if that didn't work. It's okay if you get hit by the giant pink balls as well. It's not a big deal. There's just that one safe spot if you're really close to her. It's good to know. Hit start to skip the cutscene, and then you're going to go through here. Like I mentioned before, or I didn't mention fully, but when you're doing a walking hammer, you also have invulnerability. So you can actually use a walking hammer to walk through this thwomp without taking any damage. Like that. It's kind of weird to show off because I don't want to like accidentally kill myself. But yeah, just walking hammer through this and stand here. Standing right here is enough to trigger this thwomp bunny. Just like to stand right here. As you can see, it'll keep coming down. And then, I don't know. After it comes down, you can just jump over it. Be careful not to pick up this regen up. It's pretty dangerous. And as soon as you jump over this, you can just hold left. And you won't get hit by any of these enemies. Quick dropping would obviously make that safer as well. So, walking hammer, and then you can kind of jump immediately too, because the thwomp is so fast, faster than you jumping over it. You can kind of just jump up. Alright, so after that you're going to warp back to the beach. And here's the first really difficult trick. Everything else before, some of it was kind of tricky, but I would say this is the very first real trick that can kill runs, I suppose. So you're going to go right and transition here. So this trick is much easier on keyboard than it is on controller. Rabi-Ribi is always active for both, so even if you're using controller, I recommend just swapping quickly to keyboard just for this trick. The reason being is you can hold down 2 directions simultaneously, and you can't really do that on a controller, because a controller D-pad or a control stick only allows you 1 direction at a time. So if you hold both left and right at the same time, left has priority. As you can see on my input display, I'm holding both left and right at the same time. I'm on keyboard, by the way. I'm just going to keep walking left, just because it has priority. And then if I let go of left, I'll just walk right. So the idea here is that I'm going to hold both of these buttons at the same time to walk left, and then as soon as I reach the right pixel, I'm going to let go of left in order to turn right. Like this. And if you hit the right pixel, you'll transition while facing right. So this is similar to the trick in the pyramid where if you're on the reverse, if you have the reverse orientation entering a cutscene trigger, it'll have weird effects. So in this case, it actually wrong warps to a different location. So I think I made a save on the beach just now. Yeah, okay. So I can show it off. So I'm going to hold both left and right and then let go at the right time. And as you can see, it took the transition the wrong way. And if you look at the map, I'm actually all the way on the left side of the beach. So it actually skips the entire walk through the beach, including a mini boss fight, which is over here. I can show it to you. I mean, if you're familiar with the prologue of this game, this boss right here. She's still here, by the way, even on this side. But this boss fight you skip completely. So, beach skip is what this trick is called, and it saves about a minute or so in movement. I think it's a little bit less than a minute, but give or take a minute, right? And this is why it's much easier if you're using keyboard, and I recommend swapping to keyboard just for this trick, because you can just hold both buttons at the same time, and then let go of left. If you fail the trick, this trick relies on a very specific subset of pixels, like subpixels. It's like 1/4 of Subpixel's work for this trick, and it's also frame perfect to turn around on the right frame. So it's twofold. As soon as you transition, however, you're always on the right Subpixels, and that's when you can just hold left and right and then let go at the right time. However, if you fail it and you're over here, you need to walk to this set of flowers on this bush and then start the trick again. Basically, if you have the right velocity, Erinoah kind of starts off slow and then speeds up. And if you're at max velocity, that's when this trick works. So if you're all the way over by these flowers, that's the max velocity coming into this curve. And it also, basically, it eliminates the subpixel problem. You're automatically aligned properly when you first start, as I mentioned before. But if you fail it, then you have to get to the bush and then start over again. And if you transition, that means you let go of left too early. And if you don't transition, it's too early. So it's pretty easy to pick up on whether or not you were too late or too early on your button release. So these are all kind of too early. That was too late. But yeah, I mean, it's possible to do it with the controller and just manually turning left, but it's much harder that way, as you can imagine. Basically, being able to do it like this eliminates the subpixel dependent part of the trick, and it makes it just purely a frame perfect input release. Doesn't make it any easier. As you can see, I'm struggling with it, even as I try to demonstrate it over a lot of attempts. These are all kind of too early. That was too late. So that was right frame. You'll transition as soon as you get it right. Oh, you also don't want to jump. I forgot to mention that. Not jumping is okay. You don't want to quick drop. If you quick drop, it changes your subpixel. So you want to stay grounded in order to maintain the right. Not stay grounded, but don't quick drop, because quick dropping will change your subpixel alignment. So you only want to walk left and right. And I guess you can jump because that doesn't change your subpixel alignment. Like, you can just do a few hops if you want, just to be a little fancy, I suppose. So you notice a lot of these are late. I mean, it is a frame perfect trick, so it's not going to be easy every time. It's going to take a lot of practice to kind of get the timing down or the visual cues down. It's right by this last blade of grass is where the trigger is, as you can see. So that's where you want to turn around. You can use that as a sort of visual cue for when I turn around, like so. Alright, well, that's enough about beach skip. It's a lot harder to perform, but it's pretty easy to explain, I suppose, because it's pretty simple. Every time you screen transition, you're on the right set of subpixels, so you don't have to worry about that part. And it's just a frame perfect turnaround on the frame that you transition. And I don't think I mentioned what this trick is called back when I was explaining in the pyramid, but this is called RCS, Reverse Cutscene, is the name for it. And as the name implies, it's just triggering cutscenes with the reverse kind of orientation to have sort of strange effects. And these glitches were patched on later versions of the game. The one on map transitions still works, but for the most part they're banned for all the modern categories, non-legacy. Okay, so there's a cutscene here. Try not to pause too early, because pause menus are about 2 seconds. Here's a nice little setup, I suppose. I like to do a full jump quick drop here, and then just quick drop straight off the ledge. Let me see if I can show it off. And then hold lefts, and then buffer jump, or buffer hammer rather, like as I hit the ground. To kind of hammer through this enemy. If you keep holding down left and buffer hammer, you should get a walking hammer. Like so. Which will just allow you to go through that enemy really nicely. And then you're going to quick drop down here and over here. And then keep going along your way. You don't have to go, like, here you can jump up here to kill this enemy, or you can just keep going beneath it. Doesn't really matter. You can hammer through this enemy and then hammer through this enemy. Just get a little bit of hammer EXP for later. You want to build hammer EXP particularly for later on, like Alius 3, because it's just helpful. And then there's a lot of cutscenes, so you just gotta make sure to skip them when you get to them. Here in the prologue. Nothing really to it here. And here is another case of you can continue to hold down the start button for the entire duration of all these cutscenes. I want to say there are 3 or so cutscenes here. Maybe 2, but I don't remember. Either way, you can just keep holding start all the way until the How to Rabi tutorial screen pops up. Again, this is one of the cases where you're allowed to keep holding start, whereas for other cutscenes, for example, as you exit the house and go left, if I keep... Oh, actually, this is tutorial 1 as well, so you can keep holding start for this. But let me go over here. There's a cutscene to the left over here, and if I keep holding start, then I'm going to open up the pause menu after the cutscene. You actually don't even need to go over here at all, so you don't actually ever see this cutscene. But it's just something to note with holding down the start as I keep on kind of explaining it. So from here, you're going to warp over to Spectral Cave. And you're going to head over to the right to fight Cicini. Fire charge shot as you enter this room to kill the spark enemy. There's a launch here you can do. Hold this charge and fire a charge shot right here at this sort of junction of enemies. It doesn't matter if you kill the bunny here or not, or the cat here or not. It'll still kind of delay her from jumping. Here, I'm gonna make a save here. Show it off. Not sure why. Then fire. Make sure you fire a charge shot at the second bunny here, or the first bunny. One of the 2 bunnies. If you don't fire a charge shot, then you'll get hit when they jump up at you. Okay, so for this room, this is the next really hard trick. Essentially, I don't have Ravi slippers, so I can't jump up this ledge. I haven't beaten Kokua, so she doesn't spawn the trampoline quite yet. So there's normally no way to get up this ledge. However, with reverse wall jumps, you can actually get up this ledge. So how to do that? This is a trick called buffered launches. A buffered launch is a launch that you can do basically because the pause menu allows you to kind of get another jump input on sort of simultaneously, or not simultaneous, like back-to-back kind of frames. So if you kind of think of like, if you were to press the jump button, and then were to press the jump button exactly 1 frame after, it's not actually any different than just holding the jump button for 2 frames, because that's how the game recognizes it. So like the fastest input, I suppose, is 1 frame, press the jump button, let go, and then the next frame, you don't press anything, and then the frame after, 3rd frame from the start. So frame 1, you press jump, frame 2, don't have any input, and then frame 3, you press jump. That would normally be the fastest way to get 2 inputs back to back. The game runs at 60 FPS, so that would be 30 FPS maximum. But if you add a pause in between, like, and then kind of hold start, and then unpause, you can kind of get another jump input on a back-to-back frame. So like frame 1 and frame 2, you can both input a jump input without the game seeing that it's not actually two separate jump inputs, if that makes sense. So what you want to do here, this is where things get really tricky. You're going to jump up here, and then you need to be high enough. There's a sort of slope here, so you need to be on the upper part of the slope. Doesn't really matter where, like anywhere on the upper part of the slope should work, like here should work. And then you're going to do a reverse wall jump input and down drop, and quick drop. So I'm going to basically jump up, go left, and then turn back around to the right, and then I'm going to quick drop, and then I'm going to pause on the first frame after the quick drop input happens. So let me show you what this kind of looks like. So as you can see, I did a little wiggle, and then I quick dropped, and I'm still next to the wall, and I've paused the game. So this is the correct frame. One frame right after you quick drop. And then right after this, I'm going to hold right and jump, and then I'm going to unpause the game and keep holding right and jump. And then you're going to get a launch up to this ledge. Pretty cool. So this is called a buffered launch for obvious reasons, because you're using the start menu, the pause menu, to buffer a launch. So let me see if I can show you. So this is like every time you see sort of like the quick drop and pause, you'll know that it's the right frame. So this was too early. So if I unpause and try to input something, I'm just going to get a normal wall jump because there's no quick drop. So you got to make sure you pause after you see the quick drop. So that's the difficult part, because there's only one frame where you're able to pause like that. If you pause two frame, like a frame late, then you're going to be too far down the wall and you're just going to miss. So this should work. Oh, okay, never mind. Too low. So this should work. So it's honestly like the jump height is pretty tight, so that was too early. So that was also too early on the pause. So you can see how like you're not seeing Erinoah like mid quick drop input. Like that's a quick drop. Like, you can see her sort of like kicking downwards. So if I unpause, hold jump and right, you should see the launch. It's not, and again, it's not just quick dropping. You have to actually get the little wiggle here, like go left and then right, because that's the reverse wall jump input, and that will give me the launch up to this ledge, as you can see. If you go too low, or if you get a wall kick input, let me see if I can show it off. So that's a launch. If you're too far away from the wall, you'll get a wall, like, you notice like whenever I do a launch, she sort of does a somersault, like in the air. Like this isn't a somersault, as you can see. Like she just kind of did a fast wall jump off the wall. You're going to keep holding right, and then you're going to open the item menu after you bounce off of this right wall. So let me see if I can show it to you. Okay, so as you can see, I bounced off the wall automatically. It'll automatically happen. I'm going to keep holding right, and then I'm going to open the item menu at this point. So, and now I'm going to eat the donut, and then I'm going to hold right. So that is a sort of backup to get up on the ledge if you don't get the somersault. So let me show you again with the somersault. The somersault gives you more height, or more distance rather. So you can see she did a somersault, which is basically gives me the necessary distance / height to get up there. This will be a somersault? Yeah. You'll know because it looks kind of odd when she doesn't do the somersault. This might. Okay, that's still somersault. It's kind of hard to do it on purpose. But if you see it and can react to it, you can open the pause menu. Like this. It's like she didn't do a somersault, which means it'll be too low and she's going to bounce off the wall. And now I can just eat a donut. Obviously, I don't need to pause in order to do this trick. So let me see if I can do it without pausing to show you how the item menu backup kind of works. It's really reaction based, so like if you don't get it, then it's fine. Just try again from down here. Trying to get a jump without a somersault. It typically happens if you're far away from the wall, like if you're not close enough to the wall. There's a technical explanation for it, but to keep it simple, if you're close to the wall, the game kind of does both the wall jump input and the wall kick input, kind of back to back. And if you're far away enough from the wall, it will only do the wall jump input and not the kick input. And the kick input is what gives you the somersault. So, kind of to explain a little bit, this is the wall jump, just like the normal reverse wall jump. And then after you wall jump, you can quick drop on a wall in order to kick off of it. That's the wall kick. So if you get the somersault, that means it was a kick, and it gives you a little bit more height and distance. But if you're far away enough from it, then it only registers as a jump. And then you can use the item menu to sort of cancel your momentum and go right back towards the ledge. And you hold right the entire time. There's no inputs, no additional inputs necessary in order to do this. As long as you don't pull up the item too late or too early, it should be enough to sort of bring you up on the ledge. Also, you need to eat this donut at some point. I usually eat it later on in the run, but if you have to use it here, totally fine, no big deal, because you have to eat it at some point anyway. And I'll explain why you need to eat it later on. So I'm gonna try to get it without eating the donut, just so I can show you typically what would happen. There's also a slightly, I guess I should explain this because it may be easier for some people. You can do the wall jump here off of this wall, but you need to get a wall jump launch, not a kick. And in doing so, you'll kick off of the left wall, and then it'll be enough height to like get you all the way up onto the ledge. It's a pretty funny. Sort of make sure not to like let go of holding right. You need to hold right until you kick off the wall, and then you need to switch to left. So these are all kind of wall kicks instead of wall jumps. And you need to still do the quick drop thing, but it's a little bit easier because you don't need the additional height. And you don't need to do kind of a weird diagonal jump up, which may be easier for some people, but it's still pretty hard to consistently get the wall jump as opposed to a launch. But that basically covers this trick. This is called Cicini Launch. And once you're up here, you can go straight into the boss fight. So this boss fight is a little bit precise, but basically I'm going to shoot 2 sets of pellets at her, so 6 pellets, and then I'm going to do a double rev, and then I'm going to fire a charge shot, and that'll deal with the computer. As you can see. And it spawns Cicini. And what I'm going to do next is catch her as she falls and get another double rev on her. If you're standing too far away or too close, you won't get a double rev because other parts of your hammer will hit her. As you can see, you gotta be careful. There is a visual cue I use, which is right to the right side of this green clock. And then you can just mash the reverse input, pretty much. You just hammer and then reverse 3. And so next I'm gonna fire the charge shot at her, and then 2 sets of pellets again, and then hold the charge. And then as you're holding the charge, she'll start talking to you, and you can hit start to skip that cutscene. And then so after this, I'm gonna do the same thing again. I'm gonna fire a charge shot, 3 pellets, I'm gonna do a double rev, and then I'm gonna keep firing pellets until she dies. Charge shot, pellet, 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 pellet. So if you don't do enough damage, she'll do that attack. Let me do this whole fight for you to see what it looks like. So, normally I can just fire a pellet to kill her, but I just want to show it to you what it looks like. She'll go into this attack instead and start hopping backwards. As you can see, I didn't get a double reverse hit that time, so it doesn't deal enough damage. Ideally, you skip the cut in where she like starts the attack. Like that. So you kind of kill her before she starts her attack. It saves like 2 seconds to kill her before she starts her attack because the cut-in is about 2 seconds long. And then you'll be force warped back to town. I'm going to reload my autosave and kind of explain it a little bit in more detail. But it's pretty self-explanatory if you have the double reverse hits down, which at this stage you can kind of just mash. Hit her with the first hit of hammer and then mash the opposite direction. Like this. So, honestly, paying attention to how you use ribbon properly is probably the hardest part about this fight. So, the computer part of the fight, 3 pellets, double rev, then do a charge shot, and that should finish her off. And then as she's jumping, catch her with another double rev, and then do a charge shot, and then 3 pellets, and then start holding a charge. She will then talk to you. After that, you're going to shoot her with a charge shot and 3 pellets. And then you're going to do a double rev. And then you're going to shoot her with your final charge shot. And then hit her with 3 more pellets. And then after that, another 5 pellets should finish her off after the defense up buff appears on her. So, 6 pellets, double rev, charge shot, double rev, charge shot, 6 pellets, start holding a charge, shot, 3 pellets, double rev, charge shot, pellets, and then keep pelling her until she dies. If you don't attack her fast enough, then she'll get this attack in, which slows you down, and it loses a decent chunk of time, so ideally you don't want to get hit by the... You don't want to be slow and allow her to do that attack. So. So I missed one of the pellets, which is why she still has HP. But if you nail every pellet without missing any of them, so there I missed a pellet. I missed another pellet there. So you can see how like the damage is kind of not enough to finish her off. Let me see if I can get every pellet to show you. I missed a pellet there. It's just a matter of like when you fire the pellets and if she's not like in the air or lined up with you properly. Oops. I was standing too far away that the other hit of the hammer didn't hit her. So all of those hit. Again, this fight is really tight, so if you don't get the cut-in skip, it's not the end of the world. It's still pretty fast. Yeah. Cicini's one of the harder boss fights, so it definitely requires a bit of practice. I don't know if there's much more I can kind of explain on the boss fight, because it's really just to memorize how to fight the boss. just like Pandora, and then execute it. It's pretty simple because it's just a series of trying to figure out when to fire your pellets correctly. But hopefully it's not too difficult, so 6 pellets. If you don't do 6 pellets, then that will happen. And then charge shot 3 pellets, or charge shot 6 pellets after she spawns in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold charge. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. So it's not really much to it apart from memorize when you have to fire the pellets. There's a specific order, and as long as you do it in that order, you'll hopefully be able to finish the boss. You also need to perform your attacks as quickly as possible, which is why mashing is okay for that boss fight. Every time you transition, I didn't mention this, but transitions are also a cutscene. So you notice how like long the black screen here is? But if I hit start, it skips the cutscene. Even though the cutscene is literally just a black screen, it's still a cutscene in story mode, so hitting start speeds it up. So this is not hitting start. You can kind of see how long it takes. But then hitting start, you kind of like instantly appear on the other side. As opposed, if you just walk through, you kind of see yourself walking out as the screen fades back in. But if you hit start to skip the cutscene, you kind of just appear on the other side. So that's a pretty interesting little time save to take a note of. And then if you skip this cutscene as soon as you talk to her, it skips her asking yes or no questions. And you're gonna go right into this. So this is the final section of the game. This is where things get really difficult really fast. So hopefully I can explain things in a sort of easy to understand manner. So next series of tricks is called ASG, Alias Save Glitch. You're gonna walk into this trigger on the right. You can walk into this trigger on the left, like this, but you don't want to do that because it'll mess up the setup. It's also slightly slower to do that. So you're gonna walk into this boss fight on the right, and skip the cutscene, as always. There's a lot of cutscenes I forgot to mention that you need to skip. Hopefully through sort of learning and practice you can kind of figure out that every cutscene basically you can skip with the start button. So here is Alias 1, and we're going to be performing a trick called Alias Save Glitch. So basically how this works is it's pretty self-explanatory. I should note that in your system options, and I believe it's system, there's going to be a setting here that says version 1.08 hammer roll. You got to make sure that this is on in your settings, otherwise this trick will not work because it's patched via that setting. So I'm going to swap over to an image really quick. Let me see if I can pop up the image first really quickly. Okay. Oops. Okay, so here you go. So normally during warp destination there are these autosave triggers before and after, like in the area. So when you're fighting Alias 1, there's these, you can see in the red here, these are actually the autosave triggers. So as soon as I beat Alias 1, there's actually one frame where these event triggers are actually active. So if I were to beat Alias 1 while standing on one of these two tile sets, these two pillars in the red here, like if I'm standing in those two areas when the boss fight ends, there's that one frame that event triggers activate, and an autosave. Those are the two autosave kind of triggers. So an autosave will activate there if I beat her while standing on that tile. You'll see what I mean if you pay attention in the top right of the screen where the autosave shows up. So I'm gonna beat up this boss really quickly. and show it to you. So you can see the autosave on the top right there. And because there was an autosave, basically what that means is I can load my autosave and it will return me to that area. So let me show it to you. I'm going to go back to the title screen and I'm going to load up my autosave. And voila, I'm back in Warp Destination, except Alias 1 is no longer here because it's saved after I beat Alias 1. Pretty cool, right? So that is basically the name of the game. I'm gonna load, I think it's file 3. Okay, so this is the boss fight. So I'm gonna explain the boss fight because it'd be helpful to know. Once again, to go back to this image, I'm gonna leave the image, I guess, in the video description, but real quick, these are the two sort of pillars. If you pay attention to the background, you can kind of see that there are a bunch of like hexagon kind of shapes. Essentially, it's in between the sort of long hexagon shapes. So kind of like right in the center of where the central hexagon shapes are, that's where the autosave triggers are. So it's a pretty easy visual cue if you look at the background like that. Otherwise, you can kind of look at the combo meter. The trigger on the right here is just in between the little arena and the grade, the D ranking here in this image. So you want to stand somewhere around there. The autosave trigger is a tile wide, so it's not super precise, but if you're not being careful, you can miss it and accidentally kill the boss. So, back to the game. So what I do here for this boss fight is I'm going to shoot some pellets at her. I'm going to wait for her to perform an attack. She is RNG, but she performs one of 3 attacks. She's either going to use a hammer wave and stand in the same location without moving. She's going to do a single jump, or she's going to do a double jump. So I'm going to react to it here. So here's a single jump. And basically, you can always just hammer her. I'm going to do a double rev and then fire a charge shot and 3 pellets. So keeping it simple. I waited. I was a little bit early there, so my second hit of the double reverse hit didn't hit. And then I'm going to wait for her to perform her next attack. Looks like a carrot bomb. I'm going to... So for carrot bomb, you can kind of just get behind her. And then normally you can do a second double reverse hit, or you can do a just a regular Rev 3. And that will put her at low enough HP that you can finish her off with a single charge shot. Like so. So I'm just standing like on the trigger and then firing a charge shot from a distance away. You can also make it a little bit easier if you want to use an amulet. However, an amulet is slower because so you can see. An amulet is a little bit slower because there's a cut-in animation every time you use amulet. Let me show it to you really quick. So I'm gonna end this fight with an amulet instead of a charge shot, just to show it to you. So you can see she did a sort of cut-in animation. And as soon as as long as you see the autosave like trigger happening, that means you got the trick. Like that. See, the autosave is up in the top right. So that means you got it. So you just need to reload your autosave. Quick reload reloads the last manual save that you made, and if you haven't made a manual save or loaded from a manual save, it'll load the last manual save you either created or loaded from. So because I just loaded from this manual save that I created right before the Alius 1 fight, whenever I quick reload, it's going to go back to that. If I changed map. So because I went from warp destination to town, that's a map change. So when I load an autosave, it will load my last manually loaded one, which was the one before Alius. So if I quick reload right now, it's going to load there. So I have to go back to the title screen to load my autosave. When you're actually performing runs, right before you start a run, you can manually load your autosave, right, like so, and then return to the title screen and then start your game normally, like so, start a new game. Because during the course of the speedrun you never create or load any manual autosaves, the last manual save that I loaded is the autosave file, file 0. So if that is the case, then during your speedrun you can actually just quick reload after you get Alius save glitch. So that's just something to note, which makes it really easy to set up correctly. But since I'm going to show you how to do this strat a few times, I have to load manually every time because I keep loading from a manual save file. And if I were to quick reload, it's just going to bring me back to this boss fight instead of warp destination post fight. So double rev, some charge shots. If you perform a carrot, like a carrot attack, you can kind of just jump behind her and then stand here, like right here in between like the middle of these hexagons, and then fire a charge shot, or stand over here by this hexagon and fire your charge shot. If you get hit, you're gonna get defense or attack down, which means your charge shot's not gonna kill. Just something to note. So you really don't want to get hit in this fight because your damage output gets reduced greatly. Like so. And then, so hopefully you can kind of react to the fight and not take any damage. It's definitely one of the harder things, and I tend to lose a lot of runs to this boss fight actually because it's really hard to react to RNG that is kind of really quick. So after that is taken care of, you're back here. You're just going to walk straight. These enemies are highly RNG, so you can actually lose a lot of time to them. Typically what I like to do is I like to quick drop and then just perform a regular road combo right in front of their face. And hopefully it knocks them back to the corner, which allows you to kind of kill them quickly. But it's not so easy to do because they're RNG. Like sometimes this enemy will just jump away. So there's not really a good way to handle them, honestly speaking. You just kind of have to pray. You can do an up drill like this, and then hit them into the corner, which might be like the best way to deal with them without RNG, but it is slower than just getting lucky. Like, if I were to get lucky here, like I don't know if I can show it off because it's not so easy to get lucky. They have a lot of HP as well, so I'm trying to show it off, but okay, that was almost it, but I was a little bit too antsy. The black one also has less HP, the one with the black shirt. Or the red one, rather, sorry. Like, that is, like, probably some of the best RNG you can get. So, I guess my recommendation is just go up and up drill. It'll knock both of them back in the corner. But even then, like, it's not always the best because they can attack right away. Sometimes you miss your up drill. But I mean, there's a lot of ways to deal with these guys. They're RNG though, so you can only do so much before you just start losing a lot of time, unfortunately. As you can see, the red one tends to get away a lot because it's in the back. So like that's pretty fast, right? As soon as the fight ends, all these kind of other nerds spawn in. I don't really know why. So just jump. You can buffer a jump and then to the right to get out of that area really quick. There's a slightly other method you can do. You're gonna catch this black shirt nerd and then pause and then open system, load, and you want your cursor to be on file 4 or lower, and you're gonna cancel back out. And basically just finish off the black shirt nerd. And it'll end the fight without needing to deal with the red one. Opening up the pause menu is pretty slow though, it's like 3 seconds or so. So it loses 3 seconds to just a good RNG boss fight. But if you are caught in a bind and one of the nerds is super far away, then you just have to open the pause menu so you don't lose too much time. But it's really your discretion of whether or not to use it. So I'm gonna use it here, for example, because the red bunny, the red nerd is not only far away, it has like max HP. So I don't know, you just have to figure out what the best strat is for you. It's like this would be a good example of when you could have used the mini boss glitch strat, the pause menu strat, and it would have been a lot faster than waiting around. Oh. Obviously, like, if you're too slow, then you can actually kill the black shirted nerd. Before you even get a chance to, like, get the glitch to activate. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot I can tell you because the fight is heavily RNG, so you just have to work with whatever RNG you get and pray that you don't lose too much time to it, really. The big thing is that you just don't have a lot of movement options in general, and you're a lot slower, and your hammer deals less damage than it could compared to other categories, so there's not a lot of ways to really deal with the RNG, so you just have to live with it. So after you transition here, you can use boost. It gives you a speed boost. It's a little bit faster. Once you get... So notice how there are lampposts here. After this final lamppost, you can do 4 quick drops, and then stop doing quick drops and just walk right. If you quick drop into the next boss trigger, you can actually change the positioning of the autosave triggers a little bit, slightly, that it will ruin your setup for ASG for this next part. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just walk into this trigger. So for this fight, it's timed, so you don't need to hit her too many times. I like to hit her with the hammer to train my hammer level. But it's basically just a dodging game. I like to let her go to the right and then stand on her left in order to make her face this way. She always goes in the direction that she's facing. So she's going to walk to the right after this. And then I'm going to let her keep going right. So she gets into this corner while she performs this attack. Oh, also, during this very last attack, you should eat your donut if you haven't eaten it already. So now she's going to spawn in Alius 3, and this is the kind of the trickier part, but basically what's going to happen is as soon as Alius 1 spawns in, I'm going to fire a charge shot, and then Noah is going to say something, and then I'm going to skip the cutscene and perform a reverse 3. Reverse hits are faster animation than double revs, so it's easier to do a reverse 3 here than to do a double rev. I would recommend it. Try not to do a walking hammer. Walking hammer reduces, uses more SP, so just a standing rev 3 is what you want to do here. And then after that, make sure you're also charging your charge shot, and as soon as Noah disappears, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a charge shot into a rev 3, and as soon as I finish the rev 3, I'm going to buffer a jump over Alius. So it's a little bit hard to explain, but I'm going to keep a lot of notes on how to fight bosses properly in the description, so you can follow along. But basically, charge shot, Noah speaks, rev 3, Noah disappears, charge shot, rev 3, jump over her. Buffer the jump over her. So she's going to speak. So, as you can see how easy it was to just do that. Charge shot, rev 3, charge shot, rev 3 is the basic of what you need to do. It's just a matter of when you do it. So, Noah speaks, charge shot, Noah speaks, rev 3 is the first part. And then you're going to wait for her to disappear. Like, Noah, like, teleports away. It's pretty quick, so, like, almost immediately after you finish your rev 3 combo, you're going to fire a charge shot into a rev 3, and then you're going to buffer the jump. And if done correctly, Noah is going to stand right here in the middle. It's kind of hard to see because I have this menu. Okay, you can see her. She's going to stand right here in the middle, and then she's going to just perform a standing attack. And then after that, you can get behind her, and I can't really show it off, but the visual cue is standing right between the illusion and Alius. Like, there's a space right here. This is where the tile is. If you're looking at the background, it's basically in the center of this bench, or just to the right of the center of the bench, like right here. Or if you're looking at the upper background, then you see a little sign on the building. It's right here on the right. But because the background is really changing really fast, it's not really reliable as a visual cue. But it's also to the left of the grade up above, if you want to use that as a visual cue as well. So, let me show it to you again. You have to go through this fight every time you fail, so hopefully you don't fail it. But I'm going to stand on the left here in order to manipulate her to face left. And then after that, I'm just going to stand on her right until she gets into the corner. Make sure you don't attack her unless she's attacking. Otherwise, you're going to delay her from performing her attacks. And since she's on a cycle, delaying her is just slowing down. It's also not really important to like really attack her that much. You want to not really get hit so you can maintain your combo meter, which boosts your attack, but it's not super important. So I'm going to eat a donut here. And then, remember, charge shot as soon as she spawns in. And then she's going to talk, rev 3. Charge shot, rev 3, buffer jump. And then stand right here and fire your charge shot and keep mashing pellets until she dies. And you should get the autosave, as you can see, if you saw from the top right. And again, because I loaded from a save, I'm going to have to manually load my autosave. During actual runs, you can just quick reload, which is less of an issue. Okay, so now we're here. The hospital is just ahead, and there is a cutscene trigger. So much like before, the goal is to sort of enter this cutscene trigger backwards. But it's pretty hard to do that, especially through a transition, and it's subpixel dependent. But there is a setup. so here's the setup. Notice how there's an autosave right here. You're gonna walk. You want to typically walk at least till you're like over this trash can, I suppose. Like so, like you want to stand like at least right here, and that is in order to reset the autosave. So you can see like every time I walk away and walk back, the autosave kind of blinks. That means it created a new autosave. So you can see like it keeps blinking every time I walk past the trash can and then back over by this bench. So you're going to walk past the trash can, you're going to hold the hammer, and if you hold the hammer and walk, you do a slow walk like this, and you can see sort of a yellow blinking light. So you're going to do a slow walk to the right, and then trigger the autosave, and then reload the autosave. Okay, so now we're in the right subset of pixels. There's going to be two different subpixels that you are going to be aligned up with after you perform the walking hammer reload. So it's really hard to see in this image because it's so small, but I'm going to get an image up on the other screen so I can show you. Okay, so here we go. Again, this is still pretty difficult. Let me see if I can zoom in for you to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so this is probably big enough that you can kind of see it. So if you look closely at the bench on the background, you can see the shadow of Erinoah's foot. So on the left image, you can see that the shadow is only halfway on the bench, and on the right image, you can see the shadow is fully covering the bench. So I mean, it's kind of explanatory in this image too. Like it explains what to do. But basically, to go back to this game, I don't know how well you can see it, but in this position, it is a 4 buffer position. So what that means is I'm going to pause buffer, or item buffer once, and then after this, I'm going to hold right, and then buffer 4 times. So there's always an initial buffer, you can call it buffer 0, and then you're going to hold right, and then you're going to do either 4 buffers or 5 buffers. So like I said before, this is a 4 buffer position. So I'm going to hold right, and I'm going to unpause the item menu, and then immediately use it again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after this, I'm going to let go of the D-pad / arrows, like let go of all movement, and then undo the item menu. And you're going to wait for Erinoah to return to standing position. After this, you're going to hold straight right, and don't stop holding straight right until you get to the entrance of the hospital. Don't jump. Jumping is actually okay, but don't quick drop. And then you're going to open the item menu as you get close. Remember, don't let go of holding right, otherwise your subpixels may be compromised. And so from here, the idea is you're going to keep holding right, and you're going to wait for the second buffer where her eye is off screen. Her right eye is off screen. So you can see Erinoah's right eye is still on screen. So I'm going to keep holding right, and then buffer once. And now her screen is off screen. So this is the first frame that her eye is off screen. This is the second frame that her eye is off screen. So on the second frame, remember you're holding right this whole time until this point. You're going to hold left this time, and then you're going to buffer once. And then after you buffer once, you'll see that she has turned around. And now you're going to release the D-pad / movement, and then unpause the buffer. So this will align you correctly with the cutscene trigger. And as you can see, when I scroll through the dialogue, she's going to walk backwards. And this is the reason, this trick alone is the reason why you need to have story mode. Because when you're in speedrun mode, the cutscene here automatically gets skipped, and it skips in an infinite loop of her walking backwards and forward. So you're going to see I'm just going to keep walking backwards and forwards. So in speedrun mode, this happens infinitely, and it's going to keep skipping until it can't skip anymore, but since it can keep skipping, it'll just keep doing it forever. So in speedrun mode, we call this infinite blackness. Even in story mode, if I were to hit start to unpause, or to skip the cutscene, it will also cause this infinite loop. But in story mode, there's actually 1 frame of input. So basically, you can just keep holding right and then advance the text. And then because you're holding right, you'll slowly inch to the right. So I'm just going to keep doing that. Don't have to press anything special. And then as you can see, I can slowly worm my way out into the hospital. So again, just to show it off, pause once. This is a 4 buffer position. Hold right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let go of D-pad. Unpause. Wait for her to stop. Back to neutral standing position. I'm gonna hold right. And then I'm gonna pause buffer as I get close. And then keep holding right. And then pause buffer slowly. Or item buffer, I should say. This is the first frame her eye is off screen. This is the second frame her eye is off screen. Now I'm gonna hold left and buffer once. And now I'm gonna release the D-pad and let go of the item buffer. And then after this, I'm gonna hold right and then advance the dialogue. Make sure you don't hit start. If you hit start, then well, you'll be caught in an infinite loop and soft lock your run, and you'll have to close your game and reopen it. So don't do that. So let me show it off from a 5 buffer position. Okay, so this is a 5 buffer position. You just have to hammer walk and reload. It may be 4 buffer, so this is a 4 buffer position. This is a 5 buffer position, so again, it's the same deal. You open the item menu once for the 0 item buffer, and then hold right and do 5 buffers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then let go. Wait for the standing position, and then same deal. You're gonna walk right. Slowly buffer, so her eye is still on screen, her right eye is still on screen, her right eye is still on screen. First frame her eye is off screen, second frame her eye is off screen, and then I'm going to hold left and buffer, and then I'm going to let go of all inputs, and then undo the buffer. As you can see, it works. And then you're going to hold right during this. It's pretty easy to do. Sometimes you can mess it up if you're trying to go too fast. So let me just demonstrate real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What happens if you go too early or too late? So this is, once you do it enough, you'll know this is the first frame her eye is off screen. This is the second, and this is the turnaround. But let's say if I did it incorrectly or something like this, when I get to the trigger, she's going to be facing the wrong way, and she's going to walk back out. And when that happens, just reload back to here, and then try again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you somehow are not on the right subpixels, then you just have to do the walking hammer and reload again. First frame off screen, second frame off screen, hold left, and then let go. There you go. It's a lot easier, once you have sort of a good practice for it and a good feel for it. You'll be able to recognize the pixel positions immediately. As soon as you transition, you can use boost here for the speed up. This is also a long room, but you have no mana, so don't recommend using boost immediately after again. And then just navigate your way back up, same as before. And here you can use boost again because your mana has recovered and it's another long room. Doesn't matter which one of these long rooms you use it in, just one of the long rooms. And then jump all the way back up, like before. I'll leave the image of the MRE pixel positions, which will be helpful. Okay, so here is the Miru Fight. This is where combat gets really technical. It's really hard to explain the fight if you don't know terminology of how to fight bosses. But once again, there's going to be walking hammers, there's going to be rev 3s, and there are going to be double revs. These are kind of the terminology you should become familiar with. just to reiterate a little bit, standing combo, Rev 3 reverses the third hit, double Rev reverses the second and third hit. Walking hammer is just moving and using the hammer. You can also combine a walking hammer with a double Rev, like so, or a walking hammer into a Rev 3. These are up drills, which are less important, and then down drills also exist, I suppose. So you're going to lose ribbon for this fight. Also, this is, if you keep going all the way, that's just the penta combo. So I'm going to enter the fight. I'm going to do either a Rev 3 or a double Rev into a penta combo. So that was a double Rev into a penta combo. I'm going to wait for it to jump. Now I'm going to do a double Rev, and right here, you can see I have a slither of SP remaining. I'm going to just use an up drill to drain it. And after I've drained it, the SP will refill faster than if I were just to let it naturally refill. This is important. So I'm going to let her walk. After she starts walking towards you, I'm going to do a Rev 3. A walking Rev 3. It's important that it's walking, because the walking hammer is what stuns her in place. And I'm going to do 2 of them back to back. Oh, I don't know why the audio did that. That's weird. Okay, so Rev 3, double Rev, walking hammer. I'm gonna do a third walking hammer. Now my SP is gone. Walking hammer, and then amulet immediately after the 5th walking hammer you do. So you can fit in 2 more walking hammers. Stand on the right and then jump over her, and then you can do an up drill into a double Rev, and then you're just gonna wait. And you're just gonna do double Revs as soon as her iframes wear out. It's kind of a bad example because I wasn't doing enough Rev 3s, but basically you can kind of hear 4 ball sound effects come out before you can get another double Rev in. The double Revs are important because they're the most damage you can deal. So after the 5th one, you're going to do an amulet, and then you're going to do 2 more walking hammers. So if she stands, if she's too far to the left, you want to keep doing more double Revs until she kind of gets caught. So basically, you want her to face right at the end of this. So you're either doing 7 or 8 double Revs. I'm kind of glossing over like the more technical explanation because it's really hard to explain if you don't know the terminology. So I'll kind of have to just assume that you understand what I'm talking about. Walking Rev 3, walking Rev 3. So if you don't do a walking Rev 3, like those were not walking Rev 3s, she's gonna just walk right through you and not get stunned. Double Rev penta combo. Wait for the jump. Double Rev. Double Rev. Up drill to drain SP. Walking hammer Rev 3. 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 Amulet. Walking hammer Rev 3. Walking hammer Rev 3. Up drill. Double Rev. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can kind of time it based on the little sound effects. But that's basically the Miru Fight. I wish I can kind of offer more tips, but even I struggle with the fight. It's a really difficult fight to get down pat. There's a lot of quirks with it that I can't really explain very well. But the idea is that if you can delay her from walking across long enough, she'll fire all of her attacks into the wall, which is really quick. It can save like 10 seconds over other forms of the fight that don't do that. Also, make sure you don't attack her too early before she uses this attack, otherwise you'll knock her against the wall. Oh, the reason why I'm jumping is to get away from her. It makes it a little bit easier to do a walking rev. stand far away and then walk towards her. And that's the Miru Fight. Just gotta get a feel for it. The thing that you need to learn for sure is SP management during the walk across. Because you need to hit her with 5 walking Rev 3s before using the amulet, and without draining your SP. So the first 2 Rev 3s shouldn't drain all your SP, but the third one will. The reason why I'm jumping is so I can see the SP meter. Which makes it a little bit easier to figure out. But if you walk far away enough, it should be enough to recover your SP. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, amulet, 6, 7. So, like, that's an instance of where I should have done an 8th in order to keep hitting her towards the corner. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, amulet, 6, 7. Oops, you want to up drill her towards the corner for this reason. And that's that. There's not really much to explain. If you don't deal enough damage, you'll have to finish her off with an up drill or a down drill, because those 2 attacks hit through shielding. The other attacks don't hit through shielding normally. And after this fight, you somehow lose your ability to quick drop for some reason. So just walk along here. And the reason why you also want to use the boosts for movement is because after Miru, your boost meter always drains to 0. So might as well get rid of it for movement as opposed to anything else. And the reason why you need to eat the donut is because you can't item buffer for the MRE trick, the hospital early trick, if you have an item. So the next glitch we're going to cover is Noah Skip. Noah Skip actually only saves about 10 seconds, so it's not the end of the world if you don't want to learn it. But the concept is 8, 9, 10, let me count, 12. But basically, the idea is that you clip through the ground as the giant buff expires, and that puts you out of bounds. And you can, so now that I'm out of bounds here, I can just keep going left until I reach the final boss fight. Let me show it to you. I'm just going to keep going left here, and then there's going to be a trigger for the final boss, Noah 3. See? So that's the idea behind it. The trick surprisingly only saves about 10 seconds just because of how fast the bosses are. But it's still not too difficult, and if you're trying to optimize, then you want to learn everything. So this is pretty easy. You're just going to do a penta combo with a reverse hit, like a Rev 3 or double Rev, doesn't matter, and then finish her off with a charge shot. So 3 pellets, charge shot in the middle of the penta combo, and then charge shot after. And then you're just going to walk forward until you hit the giant buff. And then after that, you're going to jump 13 times at max height. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then you're gonna up drill. And then as you're falling, use Amulet. Basically halfway before you hit the floor. Like after 13 jumps, you're gonna up drill, fall halfway your maximum height, and then use Amulet. And then what should happen is you'll clip into the floor. As soon as you clip into the floor, you want to buffer jump input and just keep holding jump. I think you can buffer it as soon as you are falling down, but let me confirm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Up drill, Amulet. I'm gonna buffer jump now. Okay, so maybe not. I'm not really sure. You want to fall through the ground. That may have been my fault though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Up drill, fall. Yeah. You can buffer the jump pretty early on, to be honest. And after you buffer the jump, you gotta hold left. So you buffer the jump to the left. And then you'll be out of bounds. That's really as simple as it is. It's a very intimidating trick, but it's pretty easy to explain, harder to get a hang of. I think the getting hit by Giant at the right time is actually important. So if you do it the same way that I do it, you should get hit by the Giant buff the same position every time. Just do a standard penta combo and fire charge shots. You basically just want to walk underneath her, and then she'll just hit you with the beam or the Giant attack. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It also doesn't matter where you do the up drill. I just do it in the corner because I'm holding left the whole time, and you have to buffer a jump to the left anyway, so I'm just already holding left. But you can technically do it from anywhere. You can do it like in the middle of the map. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oops. That was kind of awkward because I missed times. If you go too early, then you'll just land back on the ground like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you can see, like, you can pretty much do it from anywhere, but it's a bit awkward to do it if like that, because that means you're not already buffering left. And if you're not buffering left, then and jump, because you need to jump. You need to be able to jump left. There's a ledge here, and you fall down here, and there's no way to get back up there. The jump height is too high. You need double jump in order to get back up here, and also air dash, because the wall here is very high. So if you don't get the jump buffer, you'll land down here somewhere, and you're pretty much screwed. And you'll just need to reload into this fight. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's better to go late than to go early. If you use the amulet too early, then you may just land back on the ground and not get the zip out of bounds. So just be careful. You want to be pretty much closer to the ground, but if you touch the ground, then you also screw up, so don't go too late either. And this is the final boss. It's really straightforward. Just do double rev penta combo. Double rev. double rev pentacombo, double rev, intentional deboost, double rev, and then keep doing double revs until she's dead. Oh, this pattern fucking sucks, because you can't attack her. But the final boss fight is actually pretty straightforward. There's only 2 instances where you can really do double rev pentacombos, and then for the rest of the fight you're just doing double revs until she dies. Don't use Amulet if you can help it, because the Amulet cut-in is 2 seconds, and you can easily beat the boss really quickly without using Amulet. There's not really much to explain on the final boss fight. Just as long as you know the terminology for all the combat, double revs, pentacombos, etc. It's really simple once you understand how combat works. And that's basically it. Like, that's the entire run. There's a lot of tricky things. Hopefully I explained as much as I could in a easy to understand manner. For any clarification, just leave a comment and I can sort of reply to it as soon as possible. But happy speed bunning. I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial, and maybe you can learn XTM. The category is really short, just 12 minutes long. So I hope to see some new speedrunners of Rabi-Ribi. Thanks for watching. Bye now.